It's Thursday, which means we're thinking like entrepreneurs, and today we want to talk about how you utilize customer feedback to knock your service or product out of the park. Hey, it's Erin Smith, owner and founder of the Starters Club and the Entrepreneur Summit, and welcome to another episode of Think Like an Entrepreneur Thursday, where we discuss the mindset shift of going from an employee to an entrepreneur. Last week we talked about you have this idea. What do you do? When do you start talking to people? Now today, what we want to cover is as you start getting feedback, because the consensus last week, go watch it if you haven't seen it, but if you have, the consensus was ASAP, the sooner the better, although which is a lot of times contradictory to a lot of what people do. But here's the deal. As you start talking about it, you may start getting a lot of feedback, which is great. However, if you talk to 12 different people and get 12 different things and every single one of them contradicts themselves, you may find yourself running around in a circle no further you were than before you start talking to them. So we want to be careful. Now, my previous life in the corporate world, I did a lot of usability studies where we would take people through websites, voice systems, everything to walk them through our usability and really test it out to see what we thought we were doing well, but could a user actually use it? The same principles are going to apply as you're talking to people. We didn't need to talk to 4,000 people in order to really understand if we were on the right path or if we weren't. There's a couple keys to know as you're getting feedback. First of all, you've got to be getting feedback from actual people who will potentially buy your product. Or if you're developing a product or service from a company that you already own, maybe you can utilize your current customers to have them walk through. The closer they are to your potential or actual customer, the better and more valuable your feedback is going to be. If you're talking to your mom and having her walk through your application, but you're serving people who are in their 20s, probably not somebody's feedback you want to take into consideration. It's really important that you go to the source that's really going to align with who you're trying to connect with, all right? So be careful of your feedback. Now, the other thing is we would go and talk to about 12 different people, and the same principles can apply, again, as you're dealing with developing your product or service. Start seeing the patterns. Just because Joe says do it this way, doesn't mean you have to run and do it that way. Wait. Start seeing the patterns of what people are telling you. Start listening. Start determining, you know what? That's a really great idea. And then start tweaking your product based on that. You really don't want to be like, oh, you said this, you said this, you said this, you said this. Let's make the perfect product, because that necessarily isn't going to be what does it. Listen carefully to this. Really understand why they're asking for these things and what is it that they're struggling with. The other thing is take your guard down. All right, some of us will have this, if they're going through a product, like if you have them walking through, our initial reaction as the developer, as the creator, is that we want to tell them exactly how to do it or tell them exactly how to go through it. If it's requiring a huge tutorial and they're giving you feedback about why they're struggling with it, don't deem them as stupid. Don't say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Listen. It's so important that you listen to them and really understand the feedback, because they're giving you the time to walk through this and actually give you feedback. Your customers aren't going to do that. They're just going to be like, screw this, I can't figure it out, or screw this, it doesn't make any sense. So listen. Take your guard down. Just take your guard down. Be open to the feedback. Don't be like, well, you don't understand because blah, 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 blah. Listen, be open, and make the necessary changes of things that you see a pattern in. You know, a lot of times, most of the time, let's be honest, your first product or service out of the gate isn't going to be awesome. But talking to people will just help you get those little tweaks that will really help mold that perfect product or service for your customers. So this actually just happened. I was consulting with a company that had developed their first product. They weren't getting the momentum they'd hoped on it, and so they brought me in to really help them. And I said to them, like, really understand what are the objections people are having to purchasing your product or service. So people were interested in it. They liked the idea. They really loved the idea, but it wasn't enough to take action to actually sign up for what they were offering. And as they started listening, there was a pattern. Time. Time was in the way. They loved the idea, they loved what they stood for, but they didn't have the time to commit to make this purchase of the service happen. And as we started talking to other people, we saw that time was going to be the biggest thing. So I said, can we develop this product where we eliminate that objection? We know time is going to be a problem. So can we create something that makes you stand out in a different way, that eliminates the time objective and helps to get people on board with your product or service? Again, it was patterns. If the first person said, I don't have time, well, that's okay. But when you talk to 5 people, every person is interested, their ideal client, they love the idea, but time is their issue, and that's why they're not signing up. It's time to figure out how to get over that objection. So talking does wonders. Don't run around. Start seeing a consensus of data and make changes based on that. All right, if you're building or starting a business, make sure you visit us over at thestartersclub.com, where we've got some great resources over there for you. Also, make sure you subscribe to our page, as we offer great information of those of you starting and building a business. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next Thursday, where we're thinking like entrepreneurs.